Greetings, friend. I'm truly honored you've chosen to spend a moment here. And if you decide to subscribe, that would mean the world to me. Now, let's get straight into the story. Carter Langston never imagined that treachery would arrive dressed in refinement, adorned with pearls and cloaked in composure. A man of quiet rituals and steadfast devotion, he was 52. A father to twins in college, Eli and Sophie, and still the kind of husband who bought tulips every Thursday for his wife, Madeline. For 22 years, their marriage had been something of a model, at least on the surface. But the facade crumbled in an instant. One otherwise forgettable Sunday, Carter came home after a rare round of golf with his oldest friends. He typically avoided such outings, preferring the calm of a weekend with Madeline. Yet lately, she had been emotionally absent. Her laughter no longer found its way to his punchlines. Their bedroom had become a place of silence, colder than the garage in midwinter. Carter, always intuitive, began to suspect she might be facing something. Maybe it was the aftershock of the kids leaving home. With the twins gone, the house had taken on an eerie stillness. When he stepped into the kitchen that day, the air felt thick with tension. Madeline sat rigid at the table, too poised. Her lips were painted, a bottle of wine was open, and two glasses waited, with a folded note placed precisely between them. Her fingers clutched her glass like she was bracing for impact. "Hey," Carter said quietly, tossing his keys on the counter. "Something wrong?" "I need about 10 minutes," she replied, not meeting his eyes. "But I'd prefer you change first." Carter didn't question it. He climbed the stairs, traded his polo for sweatpants and a soft pullover, and slipped his phone into his pocket, already recording. Instincts long buried under years of stability had suddenly flared awake. He returned, sat down, and she poured his wine. What came next wasn't a conversation. It was a pronouncement. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," Madeline began, voice steady and rehearsed. "For years I've worn masks, wife, mother, caretaker. Now, with the kids gone, I've realized how much of myself has been lost." Carter sat motionless, listening. "I'm not saying I don't love what we have," she went on. "I do, but I need to reconnect with who I am, emotionally and physically." His brows drew together. "Physically," she gave a slow nod. "I've decided to see other people." Her words rang out like a thunderclap in a cathedral. "I believe this will help me grow. And eventually it might make me a better partner. For you." Carter let out a dry, astonished chuckle. "So, sleeping with strangers is your way of strengthening our marriage?" "This isn't infidelity," she replied sharply. "It's a journey, a personal evolution. It's something else." He leaned back, disbelief radiating from him. "A spiritual expedition, huh?" Her cheeks flushed. "Don't mock me." "I've made plans," she said, pressing forward. "My first date is this Friday. I'll stay at a hotel. I'll be back Saturday morning. Then we can talk." Beneath the table, Carter's hands started to shake. "Madeline," he said, each word crisp with restraint. "This isn't open-mindedness. This is betrayal dressed up as self-help. You're oversimplifying. There's more to this. I need to do this, Carter." The kitchen clock echoed through the silence. Carter rose, slow and deliberate. "I need air. We'll talk when I've had time to think." Without acknowledging her protests, he took his coat and left. But there would be no breakdown, no pleading. Carter wasn't about to fall apart. He would dismantle her. He didn't go far, just to a small diner nearby. He ordered a burger, settled into a back booth, and let the recorder keep running. His hands were calm now. His mind laser-focused. Madeline had expected tears, regret, maybe even forgiveness. She didn't know who she was dealing with. Carter Langston was not weak. He was a man of conviction. And now, he would hold her to account. After finishing his coffee, he made a call. "Sophie," he said, "I need you and Eli on a video call, right now." She didn't hesitate. Moments later, both kids appeared, their faces dimly lit in their college apartment. "What's going on, Dad?" Sophie asked, already sensing trouble. "Your mother just told me she's going on a date this Friday, with someone else. Says it's for the sake of the marriage." Eli froze. "A date? Like an actual date?" Carter nodded gravely. A silence fell. Then Sophie exploded. "Are you kidding me? She's been weird for months. Cold, distant, mean even." Carter let her rant, all of it. The bitterness, the confusion, the pain. Eli, thoughtful and more restrained, finally spoke. "Dad, this isn't the start. It's been happening. Friday is just her way of framing it." Carter exhaled slowly. "I feared as much." "You'll need evidence," Eli said. "Find out who it is. Get proof." "I will," Carter replied, "but I can't do it alone. This week, we move as a unit." And with that, the man who once lived by tradition and trust stepped into a new version of himself. Deliberate, watchful, sharp. He would collect every message, track every step, and let her walk right into her own undoing. By Friday, he wouldn't be at home. He'd be watching, recording, preparing. And Madeline? She'd never see it coming. Come Monday, Carter Langston was no longer the man who stood stunned in that kitchen. He had refined his focus, every breath measured, every step strategic. He was up before the sun. At exactly 6:42 a.m., the sound of running water came from their ensuite. As always, she showered first, a routine she never abandoned, and Carter knew her rhythms better than she did. He moved like a shadow, quiet as memory, slipping into their room as he once did with a cup of morning tea. But now his eyes held no warmth. They were clinical. Her phone rested on the nightstand, charging, just as he predicted. He picked it up. It was locked. He tried the code Sophie had guessed, 11:22, their twins' birth date. The screen unlocked. His pulse surged, but his fingers didn't falter. He opened her texts, skimming names until one jumped out, Benji. The latest message sent a chill down his spine. "Friday can't come soon enough, got the room, keys at the front desk, let's make it unforgettable." The thread went back weeks. Teasing messages, hotel plans, secrets, hotel room, pictures, inside jokes, a message from Madeline Reed. Carter stared blankly, unaware I was watching. Honestly, it was pitiful. I hadn't shown him an ounce of love or even much interest for over a year, yet he still came home with flowers in hand. The realization struck me in the gut, but Carter gave no visible reaction. Instead, he quietly pulled out his phone and began taking photos of the screen, methodically capturing every conversation, every photo, each incriminating word. Then he closed the apps, wiped the digital trail clean, and returned the phone to its charger without a sound. When Madeline emerged from the bathroom, draped in a robe, Carter was already in the kitchen with a cup of coffee, calm and composed like it was just another morning. She gave him a gentle smile. "Morning." He returned the gesture. "Morning, Mads." She hesitated slightly at the nickname. He hadn't called her that in over a year. "You all right?" she asked, sensing a shift. "Couldn't be better," he replied with a calm so controlled it concealed the storm rising beneath. Later that day, Carter made his way to the university to meet Eli and Sophie. In his bag were hard copies of chat logs, screenshots, and a USB loaded with digital evidence. He laid them out on the table like a commander revealing a battle plan. Sophie looked away, unable to stomach the sight. "I had a feeling she was hiding something," she said quietly. Eli sat in silence before speaking. "This isn't some harmless phase, it's manipulation. A choice." Carter gave a slight nod. "She thinks I'll fold, that I'll let her version stand and call it forgiveness." Sophie's voice dropped into a blade-thin whisper. "She doesn't know you've already moved 5 steps ahead." 10, Carter corrected. "And I'm going to need you both in my corner again." Over sandwiches and coffee, they plotted the next move. Eli would lock down the phone's contents and scan for remote backups. Sophie would reach out to Talia, whose father, Mr. Whitaker, was a premier divorce attorney in the state. "I'll call him tonight," Sophie said firmly. "He's the best, and you won't have to do this alone." Carter felt emotion catch in his throat, but didn't let it show. "Don't know what I did to deserve kids like you?" Eli looked up and murmured, "You married the wrong woman, but you raised the right family." That evening, Madeline slipped back into her polished role. She wore expensive perfume and a striking new lipstick, cooked his favorite meal, and opened a fresh bottle of red. "Feels like a fresh start," she said, smiling warmly as she offered him a glass. Carter raised his own, but didn't drink. "To new beginnings," she said. He clinked his glass against hers. "To Friday." She hesitated, just a flicker of recognition, but then beamed brighter than before. She had no idea what Carter had uncovered, no clue that the locks would soon be changed, no sense that the legal wheels were already in motion. While she plotted a Friday night affair, Carter was laying the foundation for her undoing. Tuesday passed under a layer of counterfeit peace. Madeline was extra bubbly, packed his lunch with unnecessary fanfare, and lingered in the kitchen as though rehearsing a role. But Carter wasn't buying it. She behaved like someone trying to build goodwill before making a withdrawal. That night over dinner, he looked across the table and asked, almost idly, "Ever think about how easy it is to lose trust?" She glanced up, confused. "What do you mean?" He shrugged, casually spearing a roasted potato. "Just that it only takes one slip, one secret, one outsider." Madeline shifted uneasily. If two people really care, they can survive anything. Carter smiled, faint and unreadable. "We'll see." By Wednesday, Whitaker had assembled it all. Text threads, photo files, cloud backups, a detailed list of hotel charges from their joint account, even a surveillance video of Madeline and a man, Benji, sharing an intimate laugh and a kiss in a hotel bar, discreetly recorded by a private investigator Carter had hired weeks earlier. The most damning piece? An email from Madeline to Ben promising something different for their next meeting, something no judge would overlook. Carter told Whitaker, "This isn't about revenge. I just want clarity. I want her to face every lie she tried to bury, on record." Whitaker nodded. "Then we deliver the blow where it'll land hardest, during the date, public, loud." Sophie didn't hesitate. "I'll do it. I'll be there. I'll put the envelope in her hand myself if I have to." Eli raised a brow. "You going to shout, 'You've been served,' like we're in a courtroom drama?" Sophie gave a sly grin. "If that's what it takes." Thursday evening, Carter moved decisively. While Madeline was out at yoga, he boxed up her belongings, clothes, framed photos, jewelry, personal knickknacks, anything that no longer belonged in their life together. With help from the twins, everything was transferred to a storage unit listed under her maiden name. He changed the house locks, reset the garage code, froze their joint credit cards, closed shared accounts, and activated spending alerts. He even safeguarded part of their savings by placing funds into dedicated education trusts for Eli and Sophie, insulated from the coming storm. Then he sat down and wrote one final letter, the last words she would ever receive from him directly. Friday dawned under a hush of anticipation. Carter rose before Madeline had stepped out of the shower. She didn't hear the door close behind him, didn't notice the absence, but the farewell had already begun. He sent a single message to Sophie. "It's time." Her reply came instantly. "We're ready." That evening, Carter met Whitaker at an elegant restaurant. A reserved booth, a cooperative waiter, and everything choreographed to the minute. At precisely 7:35 p.m., Carter waited across the street as Madeline entered the candlelit dining room with Ben at her side. She wore a striking emerald dress, her heels tapping against the floor like distant thunder. She laughed easily, brushed his arm, glowing with the thrill of new infatuation. But by dessert, her illusion would dissolve, and Carter would hold the thread that unraveled it all. Inside, the atmosphere was light, filled with laughter, soft music, and gleaming crystal. But one table was about to go silent. Madeline leaned in across the table, voice charged with emotion. "I feel alive tonight. Like I'm finally stepping into something real." Ben smiled. "Told you. You just needed to be brave." Brave? Carter thought, watching from afar. No, not brave. Just reckless, cloaked in confidence. Then, right on cue, Sophie walked in. Her heels echoed against the tile, each step purposeful. Diners turned. She cut through the restaurant like a blade, an envelope in hand. Madeline spotted her and nearly spilled her wine. "Sophie?" she gasped. Conversations hushed. Silverware paused. Sophie stopped beside their table and locked eyes with her mother. "So this is the guy," she said flatly. Ben blinked. "Wait, what's going on?" "This," Sophie said, her voice ringing with clarity, "is the man my mother threw her marriage away for." A ripple of shock spread through the room. "Sweetheart, wait," Madeline whispered, face pale. "This isn't what it looks like." But it was, and the time for pretending had long since passed. Sophie stood firm, her expression unyielding. "This isn't just about Dad," she said. "You've disgraced us all. You deceived us. You were unfaithful. And you actually believed we'd never find out." "I didn't," Madeline began. "Don't," Sophie interrupted, her tone cutting. "You kept up the lie for months. You misled every one of us, him too." She pointed at Ben. "Did she tell you she's still legally married, still living under the same roof with Dad, still putting on an act as the perfect wife while building a secret life behind his back?" Ben flinched as though struck, his complexion paling. "You said the divorce was finalized." Madeline's voice wavered. "It's more complicated than that." "Not anymore," Sophie replied icily, extending an envelope toward her. "You've been officially served." Gasps swept across the dining room. Phones were raised. Recordings began. "There's also a letter in the back pocket," Sophie added. "It's from Dad." Madeline's cheeks flushed deep red. Her hands quivered as she pulled open the envelope. Inside were formal divorce papers, along with Carter's final note. Sophie didn't linger to see her mother's reaction. She turned and strode out of the restaurant. A process server followed close behind, offering legal confirmation of delivery. Outside, across the street, Carter stood in still silence, watching everything unfold through the restaurant window. Madeline sat frozen, trembling. Ben had already risen, his face a storm of fury. A manager approached. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This disruption isn't acceptable." This isn't how it should be," Madeline whispered, her voice raw. Ben ignored her, muttered something under his breath, dropped cash on the table, and walked out without looking back. Left alone under the weight of countless stares, Madeline tried to follow, but tears streamed down her face, ruining her makeup. One heel caught the carpet, and she stumbled. A slow, sarcastic clap began. Others joined, not in support, but in cruel amusement. Carter didn't move, didn't smile, didn't signal. He simply stood as Madeline finally noticed him through the glass. She rushed toward him, but before she could speak, he turned and disappeared into the crowd. Back at what had once been their home, Carter waited. Madeline arrived shortly afterward, fumbling at the front door with her old key. It wouldn't turn. She pounded the door, once, twice. Then her phone buzzed. A message from Carter. "Check the envelope again. There's a key inside, not for this house, for your storage unit." She dug back into the envelope and found it, a key, along with an address. A storage facility. Everything she owned had been packed up and relocated. No need for explanation. The message was unmistakable. This house no longer belonged to her. The realization hit harder than a physical blow. She collapsed onto the porch steps, unsteady, stunned. The house that once held warmth now felt foreign, unwelcoming. She stared at the small key in her hand. It felt cold, irrevocable. Another notification pinged, from Carter. Please direct all future communication to my attorney. You chose this path. Now, you live with the outcome. She couldn't even type a response. What was there to say? That she hadn't meant for things to unravel like this? That Ben, whose real name turned out to be Wade, was now dodging her calls. His promises vanished like smoke? That wasn't love. That was desperation wearing a mask. Now everything was gone. Her husband, her family, her dignity. Her children wouldn't even acknowledge her. Weeks went by. Carter didn't find perfection, but he found something better. Peace. His days grew calmer. He began sleeping through the night again, free from the weight of betrayal. Sophie and Eli came by on weekends. They cooked, shared stories, even laughed. Healing, slow but steady, had begun. The divorce proceedings moved quickly. Armed with undeniable evidence, Carter secured a strong settlement, over 60% of their shared assets. No spousal support. Even the judge praised his grace under pressure. Madeline's legal team tried every tactic: stalling, emotional manipulation, pleading. None worked. She had no ground left to stand on. She moved into a cramped upstairs apartment across town. It smelled musty, like damp carpet and regret. She couldn't afford better. Her job in advertising teetered on collapse. News of her affair spread fast. An anonymous email had been sent to HR, complete with damning screenshots. No one questioned it. Her social circle vanished. She tried calling Sophie, twice. No answer. She texted Eli on his birthday. Sorry. He never replied. 3 months later, Carter got the official notice. The divorce was finalized. He stood in the backyard as a breeze stirred the leaves. He didn't cry, didn't smile, just felt the quiet relief of closure. 6 months passed. He sold the house, bought a modest one closer to the city, a cozy porch, a patch of garden. He took up jogging again, read books, dropped weight. And one Sunday morning at the farmer's market, he met Claire, a teacher, widowed, gentle, with a calm confidence, the kind of woman who didn't need attention to shine. It started with coffee, then came long walks, laughter. He didn't mention Madeline for a long time. When he finally did, Claire looked him in the eye and said, "You didn't deserve that, but I'm glad you didn't give up on love." He smiled softly. "I never gave up on love," he said. "Just on the wrong person." As for Madeline, she eventually moved in with her sister out of state. Her reputation ruined, her job gone, her health beginning to fail. She penned a long, tearful letter to Carter that autumn, begging for closure. He never opened it. He filed it away in a drawer labeled Lessons. Eli and Sophie visited her once, not out of warmth, but duty. When they left, she sat on the couch staring at the door, silently praying they might come back for something they'd forgotten. They didn't. Sometimes revenge doesn't come in screams or rage. Sometimes it's measured, silent, absolute. Carter never raised his voice, never sought revenge. He simply stepped back and let her destroy herself. And in the end, that was enough. This is where the story ends. Thank you for following it through. If it moved you, we invite you to explore more with us. Until next time, friend.